By knowing how terrible the effects of lying can be, perhaps it is time for us to start rethink about the importance of observing this particular precept, the precept of no lying. And perhaps it is about time for us to learn to start to be honest and truthful persons. This is also one of the Bodhisattvas' goals before enlightenment. What they would strive to do is to never lie to a Buddha. They won't even lie to themselves, let alone lying to other people. And so this is also a very important practice for a Bodhisattva. We must also have to realize the fact that once you make a lie, this single lie does not end here. It's going to have to lead to another lie. Why? Because once you lie, you will eventually have to make another lie to cover up the previous one that you have just made, and so on. And the second will lead to a third, and the third will lead to a fourth, and so on. And therefore, in the long run, there will definitely be no good effects once you lie. We can also regard lies as a very heavy burden. It's like you having very heavy shoulders, because once you lie, you would have to live with it until the truth comes out. Therefore, in the meantime, you would have to walk around with very heavy shoulders. We can even compare lies to a blanket of darkness that covers up everything. And what's worse, a lie could even be like death amongst the living. That's how serious a lie can be. Therefore, after we have looked at the basic contents of the 5 precepts, we may also realize another thing, which is the fact that lying is in fact one of the easiest to violate out of all 5 precepts. And there will be a lot of times when we will find it hard to be completely honest with ourselves, even with the things that we know. And that is why in many incidents in our life we'll be tempted to lie. Nevertheless, let's go back and look at the various benefits of not lying. First of all, if you do not lie, you will at least be able to learn to use your language well. And secondly, not only will you be able to use your language well, your language become more elegant and more easily understood by other people. And thirdly, for a person who does not lie, you will naturally be able to talk with much more confidence, and you will also be able to talk with a better expression of yourself. Last but not least, we have to realize that our words reveal deep meaning and commitment that transcend worldly existence. In particular, when we observe the precept of no lying. And last but not least, the final benefit of not lying would be that the words that we speak will start to reveal meaning and commitment that transcend worldly existence. Our teacher Sakyamuni Buddha is known as one of truthful words, one of real words, one whose words are thus, and one who never lies. Because of these qualities, the Buddha was able to establish the Dharma in this world for the purpose of leading sentient beings towards enlightenment. Therefore, for us who call ourselves Buddhists, and perhaps we should start to think about the seriousness of lying and never forget the primary virtue of always telling the truth. Thus is the way we should follow the Buddha's examples. And we must also remember that compassion is most perfect when it is sincere. Therefore, let us all learn to be truthful and honest persons in this world. Now let's take a look at the final of the 5 precepts, which is the precept of no intoxicants. This precept in Chinese literally means no drinking. But as we translate it into English, we also mean the use of any substances that may blur our consciousness and cause us to do things that are not right. Let's take a look at the definition of no intoxicants. First of all, no intoxicants means not taking drugs or alcohol that could cloud our senses and make us do silly things or things which we may regret afterwards. For example, when you drink, you get drunk, or when you take drugs, and then you lose control of yourself, and this will result in certain behaviors and that which will cause a lot of regret and even tragedies. And the second definition to no intoxicants will be unreasonable use of drug or alcohol. For example, becoming an alcoholic, drinking too much, or drug overdose. All of these will be considered a part of this precept. And thirdly, when you use drugs, or when you involve yourself in drug trafficking, or when you ask others to use drugs, you will also be violating the precept of no intoxicants. So these are the three very basic situations for this particular precept. And if we were to look at it, this precept on its own, we may notice that it's rather different from the other four precepts. Why? Think about it. Some of us may realize that just by drinking itself, this action is actually not evil in itself, and it does not always necessarily cause harm to other people. Nevertheless, the consumption of mind-altering substances too often cause serious lapses in good judgment and violation of other precepts. Let me tell you the following story to demonstrate the effect of no intoxicants on the other four precepts. Once there was a man who was drinking, and as he started to get drunk, he saw his neighbor's chicken running around in the backyard. Therefore, he decided that the chicken will go down with the wine rather nicely. Therefore, he went over and stole the chicken and then killed the chicken. And as he was enjoying the chicken with the wine, his neighbor, a very beautiful woman, came around and asked if he had seen her chicken. And since he was already drunk and full, he lied to the woman about not having seen the chicken. And also, having realized how beautiful his neighbor was, this man sexually harassed her. Therefore, from this, you will be able to see that a chain of action that involves the violation of the 5 precepts all started from drinking itself. So basically, the whole chain of events that led to his breaking of all 5 precepts actually began by drinking. And imagine if he had never taken it, he would never have planted so many bad karmic seeds. And I'm sure we can all think of much worse examples in all of this world. And therefore, that's why we need to be very careful with drinking and think about the consequences of doing so. Now, there are several effects to taking intoxicants. First of all, it could result in bad breath. And of course, nobody enjoys talking to someone with bad breath. And secondly, by drinking, it will cause bad memory. For example, for someone who consumes a very large amount of alcohol, it will result in damaged brain cells. And once his brain cells are damaged, of course, his memory will be affected. And a third effect of intoxicants will be bad judgment. Since you have taken a drink that blurs your mind, that dulls your mind, you won't be able to make the right judgments. And furthermore, by drinking, it could result in behaviors that will cause regret after you become sober. So you could be out there doing silly things while you're drunk. At the same time, you don't realize that this is wrong. But after you wake up, you are still the one who has to bear the consequences of your own actions and behaviors. And another effect of drinking or taking intoxicants is that by drinking, you are also violating your right to a good health, be it alcohol or drug. Anything that dulls your mind or blurs your consciousness will eventually cause some type of health damage. Therefore, these are all the effects of drinking or intoxicants that we must bear in mind. One other thing which we need to note is that drug trafficking is regarded as much more severe than using drug yourself. Why? Because if you're using drug, you're only causing bad health in yourself as an individual. But once you start trafficking drugs, you are indirectly encouraging other people to also take these drugs to cause health damage onto themselves. And that is why drug trafficking is regarded as a very, very serious violation of this particular precept. And now, when we are considering the consequences of violating the precepts, especially against the unreasonable use of drugs or alcohol, it is good to consider that Buddhism is essentially a religion of morality, self-control, and wisdom. In other words, anything that clouds the mind or dulls reason is bound to diminish both our wisdom and our self-control, the two very important things that maintains or that helps us maintain normal and healthy lives. In the Sutra on the Upasaka Precepts, it tells us that if you want to cross the great ocean of birth and death, you must uphold the 5 precepts with all your heart and mind. Therefore, this is something which all of us should bear in mind.